This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 937. You Can Teach an Old Dog New Tricks, Part 2, by Grumpus Maximus of grumpusmaximus.com. And I'm your host, Dan, and I'm here each and every weekday reading to you from some of the very best personal finance blogs on the planet. And before we get to today's post, investing can be hard and confusing, especially with ticker symbols and charts flying back and forth on business channels like it's the runway at LAX. But why should something so important to your family's future be left up to the talking heads on CNBC? Enter the Motley Fool. They give you straight talk without the fancy jargon and noise that you're used to. Their flagship service, Stock Advisor, gives you 2 brand new stock recommendations every month with daily analysis and coverage coming directly to your inbox daily. So what are you waiting for? Go to www.fool.com/optimalfinancedaily to learn more and to claim an exclusive discount only for listeners. Now, today's post is a continuation from yesterday, so if you are new here, it would be best to start with that episode. That's episode number 936. But if you heard that one and you're all caught up, let's get you right to part 2 as we optimize your life. You Can Teach an Old Dog New Tricks, Part 2, by Grumpus Maximus of grumpusmaximus.com. Looking back now, the challenge that debt created almost seems laughable in comparison to some of the other money issues we've since tackled together. At the time, though, it was a brutal clash of money cultures between someone averse to debt and someone who had grown comfortable with the idea of carrying debt. Being the manly man that I am, I addressed the issue the only way I knew how, head on. Also, like a man, I did it with the subtlety of a brick through the front window of someone's house. In other words, I immediately put us on a budget. It didn't go so well. In fact, that might be the understatement of the decade. It went horribly. It went so badly that the shock waves were still emanating up until that aforementioned email. Don't get me wrong, developing the budget was not hard. As I discussed in my post, Track Your Money, Part 1, I was a devoted user of Microsoft Money at the time, so drawing up a budget was no issue at all. To be honest, Mrs. Grumpus could have drawn up the budget herself, since one of her former jobs involved developing line-by-line budget plans for large group travel events. Thus, she understood the importance of coming in under budget. Sticking to the budget was not all that hard either, although she might have a different opinion. No, the real issue was the resentment the budget generated. As someone who had worked her entire adult life only to give up her career to emigrate to the USA on a fiancé visa, marry a serviceman, and await a green card, she had already experienced a significant shock to her identity and psyche. At best, she viewed the budget as my attempt to metaphorically shackle her to the house and kitchen, hearkening back to a time before women had the right to vote. At worst, she viewed it as a punishment for a mistake in which we were both culpable. In fact, considering her resistance to the budget, it was probably both. From my perspective, I could not understand why she was so resistant. We had a problem, and it was the debt. We needed to solve that problem, and the solution was the budget. But when I said up above that we drew up a plan to eliminate the debt, what I really meant was that I drew up the plan since I was quickly becoming the accountant for the family. As a result, it became my budget and the cause of a lot of friction in our marriage. She got upset every time I entered the expenses into Microsoft Money and asked her what category I should label her receipts. We argued over a reasonable spending limit for groceries. In fact, we argued over pretty much everything related to spending. At a time when I expected a thank you for being such an awesome problem solver, what I got was a big F you. Like 2 bighorn rams, we kept clashing and clashing, neither of us willing to yield. Did I mention that besides my aforementioned subtlety, that some of my other finer qualities include humility, empathy, and understanding? Didn't I? There may be a reason for that. Better ways. I would love to say that we eventually resolved our differences over the budget amicably, but we didn't. What really ended most of the arguing was Mrs. Grumpus getting her green card and landing something akin to her dream job. Once she felt she was contributing financially to the relationship, she became a lot less defensive when I questioned how we were spending the money. As dinks, dual income, no kids, we easily paid back the home equity loan. We loosened some of the budget categories to create fewer clashes, but we still kept the budget going. I began reviewing the budget with her annually and updated her monthly on any categories we overspent. While Mrs. Grumpus insists that I continued to pick at her spending, What I was really doing was asking the questions required by Microsoft Money to correctly track where our money was going. It kept us honest, if not conflict-free. As a result, our savings rate expanded significantly and has stayed healthy throughout our marriage thus far. Now, some of you may be reading this and thinking, what an idiot. Don't worry, I get that a lot. And you're right. Savor that feeling, by the way. I don't utter those words frequently. As I already pointed out, we could have avoided the whole situation by talking about our specific financial situations during our courtship. If there is one piece of premarital love advice I am going to give the Grumpus mini-my, it will be to discuss finances prior to engagement. Maybe I will just face what's time tweetbook them this article via our neural links. The future will be so cool if this article still resides on the interwebs in 20+ years. Hopefully they will be more subtle and thorough than their old man when they inquire into their potential future spouse's spending history. I could have also backed off aggressively tackling the debt until Mrs. Grumpus had settled into her new environment. Marrying an international wife is a common occurrence within the military. There were resources I probably could have sought to better prepare myself for some of the challenges. A more emotionally attuned husband may also have seen the signs that Mrs. Grumpus had already experienced a significant shock just by moving to the U.S., and given her some space. Instead, I metaphorically clubbed her over the head like Captain Caveman. I might have also taken the time to understand that I was the odd one in this situation. Carrying a commercial debt load is a rather common occurrence in the Western world. Not everyone is as anti-debt as I am. With all that said, each of those solutions would have required a certain amount of introspection that I'm not sure my younger self would have been capable of at the time. What was within my limited capacity was working with Mrs. Grumpus to solve the debt problem together. As previously stated, Mrs. Grumpus had prior work experience putting together budget proposals for large groups. I should have played on that strength, which would have allowed her to feel like part of the solution. Instead of going away, figuring it out on my computer, and imposing a solution, we could have sat down and worked out a budget together on paper. Then I could have gone away and inputted the numbers into my geeky money program. Doing that would have been a far gentler and more acceptable way of introducing her to the fact that while we were, and still are, a comparatively well-off military family, we also were, and still are, a family of finite means. Thus, everything we do must be considered from a cost versus benefit perspective. Had I approached the problem in that way, I probably could have saved us the 12-year battle before Mrs. Grumpus finally succumbed to Stockholm Syndrome and— Wait, did I just say battle and Stockholm Syndrome? Pardon me, I never meant to imply she was my enemy and/or captive in this situation. Of course, I meant a journey of self-discovery in which Mrs. Grumpus finally came to understand my core beliefs about money, he says sarcastically. Although had I approached it in the above manner, I never would have gotten to do my touchdown dance. And as my new introspective, self-actualized, empathetic, and chastened self will tell you, it's good. You just listened to part 2 of the post titled, You Can Teach an Old Dog New Tricks, by Grumpus Maximus of grumpusmaximus.com. Ever wondered how to invest or struggled to understand how to make your money work for you? Then you'll probably want to hear about The Motley Fool. The Motley Fool was founded 25 years ago in a garage by brothers Tom and David Gardner. In those 25 years, Motley Fool members got access to recommendations like AOL in 1994, before You've Got Mail was a movie, Amazon in 1997, before Prime Day was a thing, Netflix in 2004, before you were binging Stranger Things, and Marvel, now Walt Disney, in 2004, when Tobey Maguire was still Spider-Man. Every month, Tom and David each pick a stock and then provide a deep dive and analysis exclusively for members of their Stock Advisor service. Members get exclusive access to the Stock Advisor website with daily updates that cut through the noise of the financial market. So what are you waiting for? Go to www.fool.com/optimalfinancedaily to learn more and claim an exclusive discount only for listeners. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here for tomorrow's show where your optimal life awaits.